Like to see the dance moves. Hey,
Yeah.
welcome everybody to Keeping It Real with Rick and RJ vodcast, where we talk to real people with really great stories, always uncensored. I imagine today's going to be a good one. Our vodcast is only available on YouTube, and we shoot it live every Thursday at 11:15 Central Standard Time. Our 2021 goal is to grow this channel so we can reach thousands, even millions of people to get their stories out there for their entertainment. So do us a favor, hit that red button, subscribe to the channel, and yes, subscribing is completely free.
Perfect. So, Al, big news. Justin Bieber and Tom Cruise
Oh
are
man.
planning an MMA fight.
Oh, that's a
So,
super fight.
so this is a trending topic right now. Let's
Yeah.
have a discussion about that. Who would win that fight and why?
You know, I mean, I think Tom Cruise is a brave guy. Don't get me wrong; he does all his own stunts. I
Yeah.
mean, so he's definitely got some agility.
Yeah.
But I think, I mean, at what is he, 54 or something like that? I think his wind would be lacking. I mean, but Bieber's just like a softie. Like,
He is.
I don't
He's a
see
noodle.
Bieber. Yeah, I don't see Bieber having any kind of fighting ability.
So you're gonna give it to Cruz?
I'm gonna give it to Cruz. I'm gonna give it to
Yeah,
Cruz.
I'm gonna agree. But not only am I gonna agree, but I'm gonna say Cruz is gonna annihilate him.
Yeah.
I'll tell you,
I
I'll
don't
tell you
even
why.
think there's
I
a
agree.
chance.
Old
I
man
agree.
strength.
Oh.
Old man power.
Definitely.
Tom Cruise is definitely an older cat, but let's be honest. Like, look at
Yeah.
he does a lot of his own
He's in
stunts.
good shape.
The
Yeah.
guy's powerful.
Yeah, he's in
Mature
good shape.
muscle.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
man. He will crush. And like, what has
What
Bieber
is
done?
Yeah, what is the why would he even want to do that, Bieber? I don't
I
just
don't
get-
know.
Same reason why that guy, who's that YouTube guy?
Oh, and then he
that's
knocked out
fighting
Nick,
everybody in
Nate.
right now.
He knocked out Nate, the basketball player.
Who's that?
Who's that?
Jake Paul? Or
Jake
what's
Paul.
his name?
Yeah,
Paul.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Those two brothers, they're calling everybody out and doing
Oh, yeah,
fights,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, but
Calling
those
out
guys were
Conor
probably
McGregor.
fighters like back in the day. Like they were getting into
Well,
fights.
they are good fighters.
Well, yeah, but
They're-
that's
they're
different than
decent.
Bieber calling somebody out. Like,
Yeah, they're decent, but I
Yeah.
mean, he's calling out Conor McGregor and stuff.
Yeah, that's
I
too
think
far.
it's just for some kind of
yeah,
Conor McGregor just lost his last fight. You guys see that?
Yeah.
Got
yeah, I
knocked
saw,
out.
yeah.
You know, it's funny. I was actually thinking about that guy, and for someone who is so world renowned,
Mhm.
who is actually a pretty great fighter, he gets his ass kicked all the time.
he does.
You know what though? I think he did really well for the majority of the fight. What's his name there? Poirier just caught him with a couple nice shots near
Yeah.
the end, and in MMA and in boxing, that's all it takes.
Yeah.
Is like one or
But
two
how
punches, right?
long
That is
is
true.
McGregor's like? To me, he lost again. You know, he's gracious about it, this and that. But I'm kind of over him now. Like I
Yeah,
I don't see him as a legend. I was looking at some of the guys, the top MMA guys, like Silva. Like Silva, you know, he should have been done after the first leg thing, right?
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
But prior to that, man, every fight was fantastic. John Bone Jones, who's
Yeah.
the shorter black guy, pound for pound,
Oh,
bald head guy.
What's his
But
name?
these are all like true champions.
Is this back
Like,
in the day?
no,
Fighters,
now
or this
they're like
current
some are
fighters?
current. John Bones Jones, like these guys have maybe
I
lost
think
a fight.
Nabib is
Yeah,
definitely one
Nabib,
of the
yeah,
best.
he hasn't
guys. Like,
lost yet. Like
no, he's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like,
so I think
technique.
McGregor is all about hype, but I think that
Yeah.
hype,
Mhm.
It's
What
fading.
sells
you got to
tickets?
win a couple fights now. Like,
Yeah,
I
it
think
sells
he's got
tickets.
to prove himself.
Yeah.
Like all the talk means nothing anymore.
No.
Yeah.
But I look at a lot of these fighters, and you can see it's one or the other. So you have a guy like McGregor, who's just a talker,
Yeah.
but he's
Yeah.
good too. Like he knows how to bust your balls verbally, where a lot of guys
Oh, for
don't.
sure.
And then you have the ultra quiet guys who are very respectful, like the Russian,
Nabib.
Nabib.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know who could ever beat that guy, but I mean, talk about a boring person to try and sell tickets. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Like
of
he's got
course.
a great story about
Yeah.
working in the mountains, fighting lions and
Wrestling
polar
bears.
bears,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
his father passing away.
Yeah.
It's a good story, but you got to have a McGregor to build it up.
You
to
need
make
the
sure that-
entertainer, but you need somebody
course.
that can back it up at the same time.
Of course. of
Otherwise,
course.
it's just a sideshow, and people will stop caring.
just like
about that.
competing on stage, right? You can look
That's right.
fantastic, but you got to have a little something to get people
Yeah.
to get you excited,
You
right?
gotta have personality.
Yeah.
Personality.
Got
Pers-
it.
Personality has a price.
So
Yeah,
speaking
for
about
sure.
MMA, there's I guess there's a thing going on with Biden saying that men that identify as women
Mm-hmm.
can now compete in professional sports in the U.S.
It's true. We talked about that off camera. I don't want
Wow.
to say that it's all sports,
Okay.
but it's some sort of. We should have researched exactly what it is, but
Yeah.
it's becoming more and more favorable for men who identify as women to compete against women in their sporting events.
Mhm.
So, what do you think about that? What would you say to a man who's transitioned to a woman wrestler? So let's go. I don't know, college wrestling, for
Yeah.
example, not
I think you just go
WWE.
right to fighting. Like, put a dude and a girl. Like, they just
Yeah.
Like if you were to take down a girl and just beat the shit out of her, you'd be in jail for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
But as long as you say that you transition into a woman and you put it in some sort of a sporting event,
Yeah.
that's okay.
wear a wig, tuck it back.
And what woman wants to do this?
It doesn't make any sense to me. Like if you look at even like professional, like Olympic, let's say women pole vaulters, and then you take like high school men pole vaulters, they're doing the same things,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like they're even the elite women are not at the same level of amateur men
Yeah,
Mhm.
in
true.
most cases, right? So
Mhm.
I don't see how a guy that's been a guy for 25 years, 30 years, all of a sudden transitions for say 2 years. Now he's a woman. He's had the advantage of testosterone for
Yeah.
30 years.
Mhm.
He's got that muscle maturity, and then he's going in and or she, sorry,
Mhm.
is going in and beating the crap out of it's happening in MMA.
Yeah.
I can't Joe Rogan did a podcast about it. I can't remember who the fighter was, but this woman was beating the crap out of other women. Like it wasn't even
But
fair.
the woman was a man identifying as a woman.
That's
Correct?
right.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
See, this is one of the things that I was okay. So forget about. Here's a specific example where it really affects boys in a negative way. We're talk hockey. Girls have been playing boys hockey for a long time. That's
Yep.
not even a thing.
Yep.
So here's the issue that I have with it from the boys' perspective. So let's say that she's going into the corner to get the puck. The guy has to make the decision. If it's
Mm.
another dude, you're going in there to crush the guy, right?
Yeah.
If you go in there and crush her,
Mm.
you're the guy that probably injured a girl,
Yeah.
right? And you're gonna
Yeah,
have
and
that
that's-
stigma
yeah,
for the
yeah.
rest of your life.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Oh,
Now
yeah.
you go in there 50%, and she comes at you and knocks you down.
Yeah.
Well, no, you're the boy that got knocked over by a girl.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and you have to make this instant
You
decision
do.
in
Yeah.
that
You don't want to think
position.
about that.
Why would you put other boys in this position? Never mind the girl part of it. Never mind the girl that eventually is going to get injured by. Why are we putting boys into this position to have
Yeah.
to make these decisions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's unfair, in my opinion. I
It's
really
very unfair. And you know
Yeah.
what? Like I played major junior hockey when I was younger, and like when you're playing, when you're in the heat of the moment, you don't even think. You just go in there full blast. You're going after the puck. You're going after the man or the woman in this case. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
and like yeah, I can see it just
Yeah.
does trouble. Like,
Well, and hockey too, you're looking at a helmet and a cage and shoulder pads, so you don't
Yeah.
even necessarily you don't see that female presence.
yeah,
Whereas
correct. Yeah.
when a man does, you soften up a little bit.
Yeah.
You sort of you come at a different approach no
Yeah.
matter what, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
it's going to be tough. I don't know how this world is going to look in a few years from now
Yeah,
with this new Biden presidency, and he's creating some interesting narratives in the world.
he is.
That
He
people are
is.
going to be following.
And heaven forbid he gets even sicker than he is and Camilla Harris has to take over.
Oh yeah,
Oh my goodness.
yeah. I'm at,
I
do you think,
some of the things she's been quoted saying is just really
Give me an
scary.
example. What I
Well,
don't know much.
She's been quoted saying that illegal immigrants in the states still deserve health care.
Mhm.
So technically people are just fleeing their countries to come to the states
Mm.
to get health care that they are not paying into.
Mm.
Yeah.
So that's going to bleed the American economy dry,
You know what?
Yeah.
right? Like
I understand. You and I would probably sit on the same political side of things. I imagine, just in some of the conversations we had.
yeah.
Having said that, when it comes to immigration, illegal immigration, like when they're just coming in without paperwork and then staying, or if they've been here for 20 years, they came in as a kid, like their parents took them in, and now they're looking for Medicare. I don't know if I have an issue with that, and I'll tell you why. Because I feel like a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them are working. They work, they do the jobs. Like let's be
Mhm.
honest, a lot of people hire Mexicans to do the work that they don't want to do.
Mhm.
So why not give them some Medicare if as long as they're contributing? Now, if
Mhm.
you're going to bring some MS-13 gang members through here or the cartel people, obviously not. Obviously not, right?
Yeah.
But do I want to across the board say all immigrants should not get medical attention or Medicare or whatever it is in the U.S.? I don't even know what it is. I don't know. I'm not sure if I agree with that.
I just don't think that people that are skipping across the border, like if you can get across the border legally,
Mm.
then do it. Then you deserve health care.
100%.
But there's a reason you're coming in illegally.
Yeah.
Right? Like, because if you could do it legally, why are you doing it illegally?
But but they do have. I'm assuming you've been to Mexico.
Oh yeah, many
Yeah.
times, many times.
And have you ever been off the what do you call it? The when we go to the hotel?
Tourism.
I never stay in the resorts.
Never stay in the resorts.
I always stay with the locals.
You do,
yeah.
eh?
Yeah, I have many friends that live there. I've lived in there.
So what do you notice about them when you're not looking at the touristy locals, the ones who aren't servicing locals? What do you notice about them as a people?
They're great people.
Yeah, they are.
They're great people.
Yeah, yeah.
Every time I go, I try to speak a little bit of the language, show them respect. Say lo siento if I bump into them, right? Say sorry.
Hey, this
I'm
guy.
just not I don't walk around like an ignorant American, like
Yeah,
with my head in the air, right, thinking I'm the king.
yeah.
Yeah.
I treat them with respect. I go to the local restaurants. I hang out with the locals. Like I said, I have many friends that have lived and died in Mexico.
Hmm.
It's a great country as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I guess that's my sort of where I was leading this question is why are they leaving Mexico? I feel like there's opportunity there. Beautiful weather.
Mhm.
Why are they coming over here in droves? Is it their decision or is something being created that is, like we'll say a conspiracy theory where they're trying to get a lot of people to come over? You think that could be it?
I
Tough
think
to prove.
I
Tough to
think in
prove.
years of past, the American dream was an actual thing, right? Like
Mhm.
where you could come here, you could start your own business,
Yeah.
and be very successful. But I think that's like it's fallen along the wayside nowadays, and like the American dream is kind of like simply that. When you wake up, it's over because it doesn't happen as much anymore, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And it's happening less and less because of all I mean, the left leaning governments. They're bringing in too much socialism, and
Yeah.
it's taking away from all these people that want to actually pursue their own thing, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
How do you feel about a universal? What do you call it? Kind of like how we get served now. What would you call that word?
oh,
Where
universal minimum income.
yeah, so where everybody gets $1,000 a month, no matter what. How do you feel about that?
Where's that coming from?
Yeah.
It's a great question. Where would it come from?
Yeah,
The
Taxes,
rich?
business owners.
taxes would have to go up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think that it would benefit society as a whole, like if we put a little bit more on the business owner, on the rich, in order to pay for the poor? Do you, you know, do you
I think that's a band-aid.
would that unequal the equality?
I think what needs to happen is we need to put more money into education,
Mhm.
so the impoverished have more access to education so that they can acquire better jobs, so that they can get themselves out of poverty.
Hmm.
I mean, just throwing money at a problem never works. It works short term,
Mhm.
but it doesn't, like, if you look at social sciences, it never works long term.
Hmm.
It's a band-aid, right? Like,
Yeah.
they need more access to more resources, i.e., like education, healthcare, stuff like that.
Hmm.
And I mean, social programs are great, but who's funding these social programs? We need capitalism and people working
Mhm.
to fund these programs.
Hmm. Well, it's funny that you say that because you're actually you work for AFM now.
Correct. Yep.
Let me do your intro, okay?
Sure.
Just so
Yep.
everybody gets a
For
little
sure.
idea of who the man is sitting here. So today's guest is an extremely interesting past, starting at the age of 10 years old when he was molested. Interesting. At the age of 12, not only had his first sip of booze, but also became an addict and, in fact, was suspended from school for drinking in grade 7 at 12 years old. Wow. Fired from over 30 jobs, 4 DUIs, and locked up for it. After 3 times in treatment, 4 years of struggle, he's finally clean. Went back to college and currently works as a frontline addictions counselor for AFM and most recently won the Masters Fitness competition in 2020. The man sitting to my left is Allan Titarniuk. Got it? Close enough?
Got it.
Got it.
Right on the
Nailed it.
money.
Nailed it.
So, reason why I wanted to do that intro is because social programs, right?
Hmm.
So, you're dealing with. Why don't you just give us a little, like, what exactly do you do as a
Okay.
counselor?
As just a little clarification there,
Sure.
I'm a residential care worker. I'm not an actual counselor.
Okay.
Um, my position is to facilitate what the guys might need. Like my shift is in the evening, so by the time I get there, the counselors have all gone home. They've been through their programming throughout the day. Um, so a lot of times at this time, they have a need to converse with somebody. There's some stuff that the programming might have brought up. Like when you're dealing with things like guilt and shame and relapse prevention, a lot of these guys have things they want to talk about and get off their mind, right? And we're there to provide them with somebody to talk to, direct them to proper resources if they're looking for housing upon their completion of the program. Um, I do numerous tasks throughout the day, like I provide them with their meals. If they're hungry, I get them more food. If they're cold, I get them more blankets. I dispense medication. You got to remember the co-occurring morbidity of addiction and mental health is like 85%. So a lot of these guys have mental health issues.
Hmm.
And I have various trainings like mental health awareness, assist suicide prevention, a lot of different training that help me implement the programming that these guys are being taught.
Okay. So let's go back to AFM just in case anybody doesn't know what that is.
That's the Addictions Foundation of Manitoba.
Okay. So is that a government-run program?
Yeah, it's the Manitoba government.
So anybody that goes into this, are they paying out of pocket?
No, it's
They're not.
covered by healthcare.
Okay.
Yeah.
So getting back to that, then, do you find that the people who are getting, we'll call it social assistance or whatever you want to call it, based on the fact that they're not paying for it, are you finding that this is money well spent? And I'll tell you why I'm asking, because you said that you need more resources and more education in order to fix the problems. We'll say immigration, but now we're going to bring it back to this. Is it working by just simply throwing more money at it?
See, that's the thing is we don't just throw more money at it. In the programming, when they're attending the 28-day program, they're provided with numerous training programs. We teach them the value of education. If they want to sign up and complete and get their GED, we help them with the paperwork to get that started. We also get them into programs like CODI, which is the Co-Occurring Disorders Initiative, programs like REACT for people with co-occurring morbidities. There's numerous programs out there. The problem is a lot of these guys don't know how to navigate the system,
Hmm.
and that's my job, is to help them navigate the system and get them into the appropriate programming that they need. Um,
So were you on the other side of the fence at one point?
I was on the other side of the fence at
So
one point.
so what does it look like? Tell me from that side as opposed to the side that you're on now. Like
It's terrifying. It's terrifying.
are you living in this facility? Or,
Oh yeah, myself? No. Yeah,
no.
the residents, they live there for 28 days. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So somebody has a bad alcohol or drug problem.
Correct. Yep.
They sign in to AFM, I
Yep.
guess,
Yep.
and then they're there for 28 days,
Yep.
where they obviously detox and they're going through the withdrawal process, I would
See,
imagine.
no, first, see what happens is, firstly, if you're detoxing from alcohol or opiates or methamphetamines or anything like that, we have what's called the RAM clinic, which is rapid access to addictions medicine. They go through there, they can get put on Suboxone if it's opiates they're on. Um, they can go into the addictions unit in HSC. We'll direct them there if they're detoxing from alcohol so they can properly detox off that. They get put on a diazepam taper because alcohol and opiates, you can actually die from withdrawing. So, and we're not equipped, like we don't have a nurse on staff 24/7. So if somebody has a seizure in the middle of the night, we're not equipped to deal with that. So they go through detox at either HSC or Main Street Project. Um, so they do it medically assisted. And then once they've completed that, they come into our program after they've detoxed. So by the time they've seen us, those guys, they've normally got about 10 or 12 days of sobriety.
Okay.
But guys that are like detoxing off like cocaine and that aren't like everyday drinkers of alcohol, those guys can come into our program without any detox for the
Hmm.
most part.
Who do you find what's the toughest drug, or is it booze that's to get off of? Would it be alcohol?
You know what? The relapse rate is really high from opiates if they're not on a taper system like methadone or Suboxone. Another one that's really tough, and it's taking Winnipeg by storm, is meth.
You
So,
get physically addicted to meth?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
It's a whole other demon with meth. And the stuff it makes people do it's absolutely
Hmm.
absurd.
So I'm familiar with opioids and I'm familiar with alcohol. Meth is smoked, right?
Smoked, injected, snorted.
Okay.
Yeah,
So and what I know you've done a few drugs in your life.
yeah, yeah.
Have you ever tried meth? Like, do you physically know? Do you know personally how it feels?
See,
Like, I know what cocaine does. I know what opioids do, but I don't know
yeah.
what meth does.
See, in the end of my addiction, I was into cocaine, and the cocaine I was getting for the most part was being cut with methamphetamine.
Okay.
So, yeah, I know about the psychosis, and like I've experienced the psychosis and the hallucinating and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff, and just like not being able to sleep for 4 or 5 days, and it's absolutely ridiculous. Seeing things, and it's the psychosis is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so you got so the backstory. The reason why you are on here is because you went from, and I'd like to talk about it if you're comfortable,
Hmm.
being 10 and being molested.
Hmm.
But you became an alcoholic and a drug addict,
Hmm. Hmm.
correct?
Correct. Yeah.
And you spent a little bit of time in jail. You got a couple of DUIs, and then somehow you pulled yourself out and became the champion that you are now, winning the Masters in 2020 and everything, right?
Hmm.
And when I put this request out onto Facebook as to, hey, do you know anybody who might fit into this sort of category? Your name came up like 50 times. I'm sure you saw it on that post
Oh,
there,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
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 So how have you, I guess the question is, and I always ask this question because I dealt with it as well. What was that point where you decided that enough was enough and you had to do something about it? Or what was the motivation behind it? Or was it jail?
See, well, I mean, I was incarcerated for a very brief period of time.
Okay.
But prior to that, like I was just like missing jobs and missing work. I was an electrician for 14 years, and in the beginning, everything was good. I was only just like maybe, let's say, partying once every couple of weekends, just doing a few rails and drinking a few beers, and I was on. I had it under control, so I thought. But addiction's a disease of progression, and with the trauma that I had experienced, my drug use had masked that pain that I was feeling for so long so well that it just eventually spiraled out of control.
So give me an example of your worst. How much drugs were you doing?
Oh God, my worst. Let's say my last 5 or 6 years ago, when I was at my worst, I had throughout my entire addiction, I had still always trained at least 3 days a week. Um, but in my last year of addiction, I had stopped working out altogether. I was sniffing at least a couple grams a night. I was popping 5 or 10 Percocets a night, drinking at probably a 2-6 an every day or two. And then I'd go out and hang out with people, and I'd drop some Molly and whatever mushroom. I'd eat some mushrooms, and I basically, if it was there, I would do it.
Yeah.
Just and you know what? And it was just simply due to like me not being able to cope with the pain that I had been through, right?
Mm-hmm. This is still stemming back from your childhood.
Stemming back to my childhood,
Are
yeah.
you okay with
Yeah.
talking about it, telling us what
Yeah, for
happened?
sure, for
Yeah,
sure.
I'd love to know what happened.
Um, I went to an elementary school in North Kildonan, and I was taken advantage of by a teacher. And I was a really shy kid. I didn't have many friends. Um, I remember I told my mom that something wasn't right, that I I did not I knew that's the interactions I was having with this teacher was wrong, and being a 10-year-old kid, you don't really communicate that very well.
Hmm.
So it kind of went on a little bit, not for very long, maybe 6 months, a year, and then a whole bunch of other kids came forward, and this teacher was charged and prosecuted. And he went and spent a bunch of time in jail,
Hmm.
as he should. Um, and yeah, from that moment on, like my life was just turmoil. Like I said, I started stealing booze from my dad.
At 12 years old.
Yeah, 11 even.
Remember what you're
11
doing at
even.
12 years old?
I was drinking.
Were you?
Oh yeah.
Man, I
And
lived
and
such
and
a
also
vanilla
too, like
childhood.
I had an older brother. He was 14 at the time, or 15, and he was into some like smoking weed and stuff like that. So I was
Mhm.
starting to smoke weed and drop acid every now and then when I was like 12 or 13, and it just did such a good job of masking the pain, right?
Mhm.
And
So what was going through your mind? Like, obviously this is sexual molestation, right?
yeah, you know what? I was abused sexually. I was abused physically. Like I was beaten on.
All by this teacher?
No, the physical abuse came from other places.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're holding on to these childhood memories
Mhm.
throughout your
Mhm.
teens, and then your young adult life. And the height of your drug addiction was in your early 40s, late 30s, right?
Height of my drug addiction was probably 38.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this question. Do you feel, and remember, I've lived your same life, all right?
Yeah.
Do you feel that it's fair that we should be participating in a self-destructive life for something that happened to us 30 years ago?
Do I
Like,
think it's fair?
meaning, do you think you can use that as an excuse? And that might sound as a harsh question because I was never, I don't know what you went through, but is there like a time where you have to just say, okay, well, I can't keep using this as an excuse, or, and you tell me, do you have to find a way to deal with it as you grow up? Is it through therapy, or like how do you fix the problem
Oh,
so you don't
definitely.
become an alcoholic or a drug addict later?
See, the earlier you can nip the problem in the bud
Mhm.
and deal with whatever happened to you, your trauma, the better off you are as far as not becoming an addict.
Right. So
But
what did you need that you didn't get?
therapy, like, and I mean, like the belief, like I don't think my mom really fully believed what happened to me. Um, it was like I said, I was a very complex child. I had learning disabilities. My mom was wrapped up in that too with me in school. Like I had a lot of problems. I was like dyslexic partially. I had ADHD, so she was getting calls from the school all the time that I was doing this and I was doing that, and I'm in the office for this and I'm in the office for that.
Mhm.
And then it just got even like when the incident happened, it just spiraled even more out of control, right?
Yeah. How many times did this happen with your teacher?
I can't even count.
Like, was
I'm
it a
not even.
dozen? Was it 100? Was it 200? Like,
No, it was probably 15 to 20 times.
okay. And this was
Yeah,
happening in the school?
this was happening in the school.
So, like, if I'm asking too many questions, just tell me you don't want to answer. But so he would like pull you aside into a room, and you guys have a
See,
interaction.
it was a music teacher,
Okay.
and the piano was at the front of the class, and the rest of the class was in the at the other end of the piano. So whatever was happening behind the piano, nobody could see.
Mm.
And he would get students to come up and sing beside him while he'd play piano, and he would just put his hands where they didn't belong.
Mm.
But it was slowly. It wasn't just all like an instant grab, right? He would like inch his way there, and
Yeah.
yeah, and like now when I as I got older and I thought about it, I'm just like, wow, this guy was a bloody creep,
Yeah.
and like I have no mercy. Like now I have no mercy for
I can
pedophiles.
I can almost see it in your eyes, that the rage that you have inside.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 He did a lot of damage to a lot of people.
Yeah. For sure.
And in all honesty, for a long time when I was in my addiction, I don't, I don't know if this is good to say, but I wanted to hurt this guy.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
fair.
Oh yeah. I wanted him to suffer.
Yeah.
So thinking about kids that have might have been 10 years old, what would be a telltale, like I'm a parent, right? So what would be a telltale sign that something is going on, right? It can't just be Al is acting up again. Like what would
No,
be some type of signs or symptoms that something's going on?
I mean, as a parent, you get to know the child's baseline,
Mm-hmm.
how they normally act, and when something is not normal, when the child is not acting off their baseline, when they pull back, when they start to become more reserved, um, for instance, even if they start playing with their toys a different way and acting certain things out with their toys, that can be a sign. Um, I know. I mean, like I said, for myself, I had so many things going on that like it was really easy to miss because like I said, I had a lot of different problems. So,
Yeah. With dad.
oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Was he
yeah.
part of your life?
He was a big part of my life.
He
Yeah,
was.
yeah,
Okay.
big part of my
So
life.
as you're growing up, he was present.
He, my father, my father started working on his own business when I was young. So he was around, but he worked like 15 hours a day.
Mm. Okay.
Um, on the weekends, he took me to hockey, took me to taekwondo, he took me to all my different functions that I was going to. Like I grew up in a middle class family. We had a little bit of money, right? We weren't rich, but we made by quite well. And like, I mean, we went to Mexico every summer. My sister lived there. We had a condo in Mexico, and
Okay.
so like, other than the incident, my childhood was fantastic.
Yeah. So did your parents? So how did you communicate to somebody? At what age were you that this went down, or was this way past school already?
Wait, but oh yeah, I just numbed it all down with alcohol and drugs.
All right.
And my whole question, like, and for a while I had a big like I was raised Christian, and I had a big complex with like, why did God let this happen to me? And so I punished myself kind of. I thought maybe that it was my own fault, so I
Mm.
punished myself. I drank, I did drugs, I got into fights at school as a kid, and it was a really rough time,
Yeah.
really rough time.
Yeah. No, no doubt.
So what would you say if you can go back? What would you have done differently? Like, let's say somebody was put into your position, 10-year-olds that until you're 16, 17, 18, even if you're in high school, you're embarrassed, right? There's no way you're opening up
100%.
about that. Doesn't matter what's going on. Like, it would take a very strong-minded teenager or kid to say something to a parent. Now, let's say you're into your 20s. Like, what's available? Like, what can somebody that's been dealing with it for 10 years and not turn 38 and all of a sudden turn to the bottle and the drugs? Like, what can they do?
There's lots of counseling available. You got to reach out. There's resources like Clinic with a K that offer free counseling.
Mm.
There's a lot of different places that offer
It's
free counseling.
discreet.
Yeah, very discreet,
Yeah.
very discreet, completely. Nobody knows who you are, what you're there for, or anything like that. Also, too, like if you're having problems with addictions, like that's another sign, right? If your kid starts to all of a sudden smell like alcohol, right? Like,
Mm.
why is the kid drinking, right?
Hmm.
Like
Would
those are
you say that's a gateway? Alcohol,
I
weed.
see. I believe the gateway is trauma.
Mm.
The gateway is trauma.
Excellent.
But I'm talking about for harder stuff, harder life.
It's trauma.
Yeah.
It all starts with trauma.
Mm.
Once you got to understand what that does to a child's mind frame and
Hmm.
like their ability to cope with any situation
Hmm.
when that's the only thing you can concentrate on.
Hmm.
It's hard. Like my school grades plummeted into the dirt at that time.
Mm.
um I remember I had my own classroom in grade 5 and 6 where I was like locked up. This, you got to remember, I was in school in the 80s, and they didn't really even understand what ADHD was. They were just like, "Oh, this your kid's got problems. We don't know what it is." So they just put me in a room by myself, right? Like
Mm.
it
To
was
then
it was
do
ter-
what with
it
you?
was
What were you
ter-
doing in there?
it was terrible. Well, to do schoolwork, they just wanted me to do schoolwork by myself because I was
Yeah.
disrupting everybody else. And like those were the days when they had the strap too. Like, and I
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
I would get the strap on the weekly basis, and like it was nothing because I was experiencing like abuse
Anyways.
in other areas, and
Hmm.
like I was like, is that it? I get hit with the buckle side. What do you
Yeah.
what do you do? That's all you
What
got?
else you got,
Yeah.
Teach?
Yeah. So
So,
like
so knowing that, I'm not familiar with what they do in the educational system now and how they deal with kids. Um, what are they going to do? Like as the teachers, and you get this disruptive student, what would be a solution to that now? Like, how do you think that somebody should go back? Because you're probably a pretty tough kid and bigger dude in high school. Nobody wants to talk to Al because Al's just going to tell you to shut up and he might knock you down. You know what I mean? So, what teacher or what parent wants to approach a child like that and say, like, what's the solution to that, Al? Like, what would you do if you were your parents dealing with you at the time? How do you think that that could have been managed, knowing who you were and what your responses were?
see knowing what I know now.
Yeah.
Knowing what I know now, I mean, you can't really take away from the experience that the child's going through. And I
Yeah.
mean, it's a natural instinct for parents to want to like protect and coddle their child and
Mm-hmm.
not let them experience anything. But like the greatest lessons are learned from experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for the experiences that I've been through. And like sure, we want to protect our child, like and to a degree where it becomes like unrealistic. Like you can't shelter your child from everything.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Mind you, don't get me wrong, no child should have to go through what I went through.
Never.
But um yeah, I mean,
Is this teacher out of jail?
oh, I don't even know. I think he's probably dead now.
Okay.
Yeah, he's probably
So
passed
so
away.
let's go back to the question. How would you help your old self? You're your dad and you see that Al is steadily declining, right? Grades are dropping. He's getting put into a room by himself. He's getting a strap on the weekly basis. Like something's going on. So how do you go back? You're your dad and deal with Al.
Okay, well,
It's a good question.
what my parents did was they put me into special education programs, so I was like in the special ed learning.
What an awful thing to call it. Hey?
Well, it's special education,
Yeah.
and that's what I needed was special
I
education.
Yeah.
guess. Yeah.
I don't take any offense to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like that taught me how to deal with my dyslexia.
Mm.
Now I'm able to that it's not an issue with me anymore. Um, I mean, just understanding and show the kid love, right?
Mhm.
Like number one is the kid needs to know that it's not their fault, right? Because
Mhm.
for the longest time, I thought I did something to deserve this, right? Like,
So, did your parents know about this when you're in your teens, or you said 10, right? And then the teacher came out. Did they know that happened to you?
late teens, early
Oh, okay.
20s, late
So when
teens,
he
early
got caught,
20s.
they didn't know that you were a part of that. They,
Like I said, if my recall is correct, I
Mhm.
remember I said something to my mom,
Okay.
but I probably didn't. Like I said, I was very shy and reserved.
Hmm.
I probably didn't communicate it as I should have.
Right.
Mhm.
But that's hard. That's hard to say,
What about
man.
your
Like you
Who wants
said,
to say
RJ,
that?
you're embarrassed,
Yeah.
right? Like who wants to
Even
go?
just to talk about it now, it still probably feels a
It
little,
it
right?
does a bit. It does a
Hmm.
bit. Yeah.
It's good that you've taken those experiences on. At least you're willing to talk about it on a podcast like this. It's something that I really appreciate because where do you ever get to ask these questions? You
Hmm.
know, and you don't want to
Hmm.
ask it in a malicious way, but you want to ask it in a where you can learn from it.
Of course.
And one of the guys, Theo Fleury,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Yeah.
you know his story.
You're only as sick as your darkest secrets.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've read his book.
very similar.
Yeah.
I really like, for a guy who was a NHL superstar making millions of dollars,
Hmm.
played for the New York Rangers at the time.
Hmm.
And do you remember where he would go down into the shitty part of town and be
Yep.
around a burning barrel and do cocaine with the bums?
Yep.
Like when I was doing drugs, I remember being the same way, being that I had a business and I had high end friends, but I would end up in the most squalor areas with
Yep.
the fucking worst degenerates
Yeah.
Yeah.
doing snorting who knows what off of who knows what kind
Yep.
of bodies. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
That's
Like,
right.
isn't it
Yeah.
amazing how your standards go to absolute
Yeah.
shit when it
Yeah.
comes down to the drugs,
That's true.
and
Hmm.
you're not that person?
No,
That's
You're
that's
not
true.
that
right. Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 100%.
So,
Yeah.
Al, from what I'm hearing from you, so if anybody has their kids that have dealt with trauma, is regardless of what the kid is doing, acting up, getting this and that, it seems like your parents never gave up on you,
100%.
right?
They never give up on
So
me.
things were bad for you, but they could have been worse.
They
You
could
might
have,
not even be sitting here today.
if it wasn't for the supports I had. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would probably be incarcerated for a lot longer than I was. Like I'd probably still be there.
So do you
Yeah.
tell yourself that it's not your fault?
Oh, I do.
Good.
I know now it's not my fault, right?
Yeah.
Do you have to tell yourself that every day? Like, do you still feel
No,
no?
no. I'm completely, and you know what? I'm completely okay with it now. I mean, I'm
Hmm.
not okay with it, but
Yeah.
I've learned to accept it. That
Yeah.
look, I understand the world is not a fair place.
Hmm.
It'll beat the shit out of you if you let it.
Mm.
And sometimes horrible things happen to great people.
Mm.
Mm,
And that's just the facts of life, right?
Yeah.
love it.
So,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna write that down because that's a good quote right there. Horrible things happen to great people. You know what I like about you? I like about your story because you could have let this turn you into a piece of shit, but
mhm.
look at you now, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Great body,
Yeah.
Mr. Manitoba, 2020 at the ripe old age of 44 years old. The things that you went through. Let me ask you this: do you think boys and girls learn differently? Do you think that we should be in different environments when it comes to school?
Well, I know their brains develop differently. That
Hmm.
I mean, from my education on adolescent development, their brains definitely do develop differently.
Girls develop faster
Yeah, girls
mentally,
develop
boys
faster. Yeah,
physically.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't think that isolating them to
Yeah.
learn would be of any benefit. I think it
Yeah.
would actually be of detriment.
But sports,
Yeah.
Well, sports definitely.
that's
Yeah.
different. Yeah.
That's different. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Like
different.
I feel like girls are very good at memorizing stuff. They're good in structure.
Yeah.
They're good at
Systems.
rules
Yeah.
and systems. I
Hmm.
feel boys are a little on the wild side. Personally, I have an opinion about education. I feel like guys or boys should be given an opportunity to be more hands-on with
Yeah,
stuff,
for
Mm.
sure.
physical,
Hmm.
right? Learn, like we like to tinker with screwdrivers, and we
Hmm.
like to play sports. And I'm not saying that girls don't, but let's be honest, the girls, they learn a different way than boys do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But boys have always been put into the category of learn this way,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I would personally like to see some sort of a shift. And I think that not necessarily it has to separate the boys to the girls, but bring in a little more activity, bring in a little more, I guess, trades or
Mm.
more hands-on type
Hmm.
fixing things,
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
for everybody, like even it out a little bit. Because I
Yeah.
know as a boy, I couldn't remember shit. and I still can't remember anything.
Yeah.
And the worst way for me to learn something is to give me a book and try to remember anything on it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Mm.
Likewise. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
as a coach, I went through courses and we went through different
Modules.
modules,
Yeah.
docs. I don't
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
shit. I
Yeah.
remember nothing. The only reason I know how to do it is because I did it.
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
it.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
that's the best way for me to
Yeah.
learn,
I
in
think
my
people,
opinion.
yeah, people learn differently, and you have to attack each avenue. And that's why I love schools like Tech Voc and
Yeah.
RB
Hell
Russell,
yeah.
because they have a real strong, all the ones that I did really well at was the hands-on component. That's just
Yeah.
how I
Likewise.
learned. But if I sat down there, I had to like hang out with guys that were book smart,
Yeah. Me too.
those
Yeah.
guys, and I would sit there and I'm like, oh my God, what can I pay you to do this for me?
Yeah.
Because I have no clue
Yeah.
what you're talking about right now.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
But I don't think that you have to stay that way, because now I do that for other people. Is I'm the one that's the book smart guy, and I try and teach them.
Mhm.
So I think that you have an opportunity, but I don't know if they should be separating it, because now if guys learn slower or differently than females, then why can't males and females compete in the same sport? I think it's very similar. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not
Well,
saying
we're talking neurology and
Yeah.
biology. I think they're
Yes,
two
yeah, it's two
different
different
things.
things.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
two different things.
So
Yeah.
I want to pivot to we're coming to the end here, but would you say that in your 40s you're in your best shape of your life?
Uh, you know what? I think health is like I bring it back to the medicine wheel.
Mm.
There's four quadrants
Mm.
for health and well-being: mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional. And I think right now in my life is very balanced.
Mm.
So I'm doing extremely well in some, but I'm doing very well in others.
Mhm.
I don't think there's a spot where I'm very low, so I'm balanced.
Mm.
Um, I know guys that are in like way better shape than me, but they're lacking deeply in some other spots.
Mhm.
So I would personally say that yeah, my overall health right now
Mhm.
is probably the best it's ever been in my life.
So
Yeah.
it's less about how you look and how you're performing, and more about your overall well-being.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm still a little vain. I still like to look good, but yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I've kind of shifted away. Like I don't need to be 6% body fat all the
So
time
for our
anymore.
dudes trying to achieve balance,
What was it for again?
yeah,
Sorry,
that's
RJ.
that's what I'm trying to say.
Mental,
What? Yeah.
physical,
So
spiritual.
can you just give us a
Mental,
brief of what
physical,
that is?
spiritual, and emotional. It's based. That's
So what's mental? Give me an example.
bringing your education up.
Okay. And what's physical?
Obviously, exercise,
Okay.
your nutrition, your sleep, your exercise,
Spiritual.
your spirituality, whether it's your religion, your contact with your higher power, your contact with the universe.
Would you incorporate that like say meditation, where almost
Definitely,
like maybe your higher self is yourself, like
it
connecting to
can
yourself?
be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can. That's a
Okay.
part of it for sure.
And emotional.
Being in touch with your emotions, learning to
Mhm.
communicate and connect with others.
So key.
It's 100%
Yeah.
vital. And
Do you, sorry.
no worries.
Do you cry at sad movies?
I definitely cry at
In
sad
front of
movies.
people?
I maybe not in front of people, but and see that's one of the things that men
Oh yeah.
are taught to kind
I'll
of
cry
not
on
do.
my own.
Let's be honest, you guys. Every man cries.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Let's be honest.
If you
Come on.
don't, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
emotionally, you're tarnished.
What do you find that makes you not necessarily being sad, but when you watch a movie, and I'll give you an example while you guys think about this, but anytime there's sort of a bro, like where the guys came together and they
Oh,
solved
yeah,
some
yeah,
big
yeah.
problem and
Yeah, yeah,
they like bonded,
yeah.
that gets me choked up.
Yeah.
I love that kind of shit.
Yeah.
What gets you choked up?
Honestly,
Yeah.
I really don't like watching like UNICEF commercials where there's like starving children and little Ruiz crying and oh, it's just
The flies on the kids.
yeah, oh,
Yeah.
it's just because you know what
Yeah.
I've been to some of those countries, like I've been to third world countries, and
Yeah.
I've seen some of those people. However, you know what my experiences with that is, I've met some of the poorest people, but they were the happiest
Oh,
people I've ever met.
100%.
I've ever met.
Why do you think that is?
They've simplified their life. They're not in the rat race,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
Wouldn't you say that that's sort of the
So key.
secret to every one of us is if we were to simplify our lives, like we overcomplicate shit.
Of
in my
course we
opinion.
do.
Yeah.
Of
If we were to
course
oversimplify or undersimplify, don't you think we would be just happier as humans?
100%.
Yeah.
I think humans generally, it's a normal thing is to subscribe to the moreism. People want more of everything, right? Like we think more is better,
Hmm.
but in the long run, I think more, like you're saying, it just complicates things.
Mhm.
So I think if we can sit like Bruce Lee said, he stripped away everything that wasn't necessary and just went with what was necessary,
Yeah.
right? And it created like, look what it created. It created a legend, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So Al, what did you learn? Everybody had a lesson that they learned through this whole COVID lockdowns and everything. So round one, I feel like everybody had a deeper connection with themselves, and they had some discoveries. Did you have a discovery through the first lockdown?
Well, I don't know.
Let's start off easier. Did what in your routine? What changed? Obviously, going to the gym.
Fuck everything.
Yeah,
I guess.
now I just train at home.
Yeah.
I was never a guy that liked going to the mall or anything like that. I hate those places. So like, in all honesty, my life hasn't really changed all that much, other than like I don't get to see my family as often.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I haven't seen my father in a year now.
Mm.
He's in a home, and I don't get to go see him. So just because of the COVID rules, and I mean, other than that, my life really hasn't changed all that much.
Okay. So no lessons.
I mean, what I've learned is I've watched people grow resiliency.
Okay.
So
You know,
you saw a positive out of this.
I
Yeah.
think so. Yeah, yeah.
I would agree. Big
Yeah.
time. A big time pivot, a big time shift. People realize that you don't have to do things like you always did, like the mall.
Yeah,
The mall is a perfect example.
that's right.
Everybody always went to the mall. Now, you order online.
Is it really necessary?
Is it really necessary? Exactly.
What was it? It was a hangout for tweens, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Do
I'll
your
tell you, I
things.
went to the mall the other day. Though it was nice. I wouldn't want to go there that often, but it was nice just seeing the commotion, and I like that. I like seeing people busy bodies, and you know what I mean. Like I
Mhm.
like
People
sitting in the
watching.
eye of the storm. That's how I like to sit around, and I like to see the chaos around me. So for me, that was enjoyable. I love seeing, like I saw a dad with his kid walking. You know what I mean? And that just like hit me right there.
you
I'm like,
missed the social aspect
yeah,
of it.
I love the community. I love connection. That's why we have this here, and we have
Yeah.
over almost 200 members, right? Like it's a big deal to me. And
Mhm.
actually, they just kind of put out a proposal, and they're saying that gyms could potentially reopen, but it's only on a one-on-one basis.
Yeah, I was reading about
That's
it.
Really?
Yeah,
that's a
yeah.
little bit upsetting to me because it's I can make that work financially. Like that's okay financially, but for my bigger picture of what I want to do, it's not great, right?
No,
Yeah.
definitely not.
But it's
no.
it's going in the right direction. Like we have a virtual platform, and we have a lot of members that attend. So
Mhm.
if we could slowly bring people in and do a little bit of personal training, I
Yeah.
guess there's always a silver lining, right?
Always is. I'm going to, you had a comment written down here. I don't see it anymore. Ellen DeGeneres. What was
Oh.
that again? Let's talk about this.
S-
And then we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Ellen DeGeneres, she is taking scrutiny, and I'm not sure if she got released from a show, or I'm not sure what happened, but she has a public image that she's, people see people on her thing and they see her as a sweetie. I see her as a hard ass. Like if you ever watch any of her stuff, she's very brash. She's very to the point.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so I guess some of her staff, she was probably, hey Al, I need this done yesterday. Like, why didn't you do it? And so I don't know the exact story, but that's kind of how I'm thinking it.
Yep.
And so now she's in the news as being like, a devil to work for.
Oh, I also heard that she took it as far as saying, like, when you walk by me, you don't even look me in the eye. Like,
I've
this
heard
is
that
how
about her
straight
too.
bitch she
Yeah.
went. Yeah.
Okay.
I've heard that about her too.
So let me
yeah.
ask you guys this:
Yeah.
two of the biggest, what kind of, what would you call that show? A daytime show? What are those shows called?
That's a
We'll call them a
talk
daytime
show,
show,
yeah.
talk show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oprah Winfrey, Ellen DeGeneres, probably the two top females in the world. If
Yeah.
they were to do an MMA fight, who wins? Quick, give me your
Ellen.
Ellen, why?
She's probably taking testosterone.
Who do you think?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm.
You have no opinion?
Yeah,
Oprah
Come on.
Winfrey?
I have no opinion on that. Yeah.
I would probably have to say Ellen. I think she's a tough bitch, and I think Oprah just likes giving away free shit.
Yeah.
One last one. Denzel Washington,
Yeah.
Jim Carrey.
Denzel.
Why? Why Denzel?
He's training. He's a
Have
badass.
you seen Training Day?
Yeah.
Hey, Jim Carrey, that
Like,
guy's
you're putting
lean,
two
he's-
guys in
he's
a-
noodly, and he can, he's got
Yeah.
he's got good mobility.
Yeah. That's
know,
like
but they're
Bieber
about
and
the
Tom
same
Cruise
age.
right there, man.
Yeah, yeah.
So who wins? Give me the answer. Who
I'd
wins?
say Denzel.
Denzel. hands
Denzel.
down.
Denzel. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, we're going to finish up the podcast here. Let's remember one thing. Horrible things happen to great people. There's 4 pillars: mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional, that you need to have balance in order to have a great life. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel. Fit Club Media. Every Thursday, we